whites into there, but it does take a little bit of time to get that black on there. So with your big brush, yes, yep. So then we'll go from there, but that'll be a good start.
That one or that one is
Yeah.
Perfect.
So if I do that,
Yeah. Perfect.
I was going to pin it and move it.
It works for me. Does it work for you?
What?
Does that
Oh, yeah,
work
this
okay
one,
for you?
yep.
Yeah, that's good.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay. So I'm just going to say this for the Facebook Live. I've already said it to everybody in here, but my name's Kelly Jackson, and I'm an art teacher. So we today are painting a Bob Ross painting. So we're going to have this be our finished product here with a little stream and waterfalls. So we're just going to get started. So if you're watching from home and you purchased a kit from the Kiki Run Cafe for your paint colors, I'll reference the number as well so you have that on your kit. All right, so what we've done is everybody in person has just started painting a black in the top of their painting, which is going to be our background. So I'm going to go ahead and start with that too. So using your big brush, and you can use some water. Just going to fill in the top half or top. And I will be coming around to check on everybody too. So if you have any questions, just let me know. Okay, so while everybody's got that black going thing, what we can do is start to add in some blues and some whites along with the black, just to kind of make it almost like a foggy evening look. So if you just take that blue that's on your palette, which is color number 6, and some white, and mix it in with your black, while your paint's still wet on that background there, it'll kind of smooth in nicely. So as you can kind of see up there, this can be any effect that you want. And I just also want to let everybody know that if you don't want to do exactly what we're painting, you don't have to. You can make this whatever you want. So here, yep, okay. Is that helpful if I put it closer? No. So I'm going to kind of add it right to the center, just so you kind of get like a brightened area in there. And you can just use broad paint strokes back and forth. And once you think you've got it where you want it, you can hold off and let that dry a little bit. You can always come back to it, but as soon as we start adding some trees in front of it, it's going to be harder. So get it as close as you can to what you want. And you can always add in more black to your brush if it gets a little too bright. And the specific color black we're using is number 2 on the at-home kit. Background. And it's kind of cool because right now it could turn into like a stormy water scene or really be anything at this point. So next, we're going to use the green. You're not done yet, no worries. But our green is color number 5. So if you want to rinse your brush off, you can and get ready for the green. But no rush. We'll give the background a couple more minutes and let everybody get it how they want it. And like Mary said too, if you are here in person and you need to get up and get a drink or something, just feel free to do that at any time. We'll get you caught back up. All right, so it looks like everybody's kind of at a good spot for their background. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to hold this up a little bit here just so I don't mess it up not looking at it. We're going to start with the green on our brush. And I'm still using my big brush just to cover a lot of area because we're going to go back through with the details. What I'm going to do is I'm going to make kind of like a little section like this. Almost like a circular, kind of creating half of a little grassy area in the front. I'm going to fill that right in with the dark green. Because green, especially in acrylic, is a little bit more of a translucent color, we're going to need a couple coats. So don't worry if you can see your canvas through it still, because we are going to go over that a couple times. So it's easier to see on the screen. We're just starting to get a look for the front and the foreground with the landscape. Just gonna make sure we're in the right position. So while you've got that on there, we are doing the same kind of thing on the other side. We're gonna leave a little strip of plain canvas in the center, which is where our water is gonna go. So we will be making it look more like water, but so we leave a little bit of the plain canvas so we can get that blue on there. So I'll do the similar thing over in the corner, and I'm just filling that in with green. If you're at home, again, it's color number 5. So same kind of thing, just like a little triangle cut out, and we're leaving kind of that negative space in the center left over for our stream. So while you've got that darker green, so after you add some yellow, you can either mix it on your palette if you want, or you can load it all up on your brush. Whatever way you prefer to paint, it's totally fine. And then you can go back over to that first side that you did, and you can start kind of filling it in with that lighter green. So what I like to do is use a little shorter brush strokes. I'm going to focus my lighter color on the top of that little mound that we just did, if that makes sense. Lighter colors in there. And it's probably not perfectly dry yet, but we're just trying to get a good coat of green on there at this point. The more yellow you add, the more of a lime green color you're going to get. So if you want it to be a little bit of a mintier color or a little duller, you can add a little white if you think it's too bright for you. And then you can do the same thing over on the other side. And add in some lighter green. So you're really just kind of starting to get some colors in there. So you can spend a little time just working on those grassy areas. You want to go back to just having some dark green on your brush and kind of covering up with a second layer, that bottom portion. You can kind of see how the canvas is still showing through a little bit. So to cover that up, you can go in and just create another layer on top with that big brush still. You can use your brush to blend it into that bottom coat underneath. Kind of expressive brush strokes in there if you want to. Because we are still going to be going over top with detail. This is just our base coat, which is going to need some time to dry. So as we focus on our background, this is going to dry. But if you can just get a solid coat in there, that would be great. I'm going to come around and look as you finish that up, and then we'll get started working on our background. Very nice. Wow, that's great. That's perfect. That's awesome. Very nice. Good. Very nice. Great. Very nice. Very nice. Awesome. Okay. I'm going to see that a little better. Is everybody good in paint at the moment? More green? Sure. I didn't want to see if anybody else.
Can I have some more,
Sure. Okay. So everybody wants to check their background. Is it still really wet or is it starting to dry? Starting to dry a little bit. So what we're going to do is take our smaller brush. If everybody's ready, if you're not, that's okay too. And we're going to work with the brown for a minute. Hey, Carly.
thank you.
So if everybody's got their small brush, and if you want to load it up with some brown, which is color number 9, we're going to add in some trees. So to add in some trees, we're going to start by just taking our brush and using the tip and just kind of drawing lines upwards. They're not anything fancy, and you can add as many as you want. We're just kind of dragging our brush upwards, kind of tree silhouettes. It can be scattered. You can have as many as you want, as few as you want. And we're going to put some leaves on them too. So this is just like a basic kind of look for the trunk. So it's just, looks kind of funny at this stage, but just some tree trunks. So after you've got just some little bit of brown in there, you can add a little bit of white and a little tiny bit of yellow to your brown. Just going to mix up a lighter version of your brown, a lighter, warmer version. Just kind of going to do a little highlight. And it doesn't have to be on all of the trees. And I'll come around with this too so you can see it a little bit better in person. Just adding a little bit of highlight. Yes, I'm not even being too specific with it. I'm just kind of adding in some color. It looks like a highlight, but when it's kind of off into the distance, at the end, it just really like different variances in the trees. So I'll bring that around. Hold on 1 second. Yep. It looks great. I love it. Me, but you know.
Yeah.
So now what we're going to do is we're going to go some of that kind of lime light green color on there. So your green mixed with a little yellow and a little white if you want a little white in there. And this is going to be the leaves. If you want to add a little brown into your mixture, not a ton, but a little bit, you can. And then it'll kind of dull it down a little bit if you think it's a little too dark. The background and use the tip of our brush, and we're just going to kind of dab it onto our tree areas. So if you can kind of see, could have put that. Can you do that? Yes. So we're just kind of like find the outlines of your trees, and then at the top of them, you're just kind of dabbing it. And it definitely doesn't have to be perfect because it is going to look like it's, you know, farther back into the background. And like mine even look a little too bright. It kind of looks like those leaves are kind of in the foreground. So I'm going to add a little bit more brown to my mixture. So you can always kind of change it as you go too. So I'm going to get kind of like a woodsy green behind mine. And I'm just adding in kind of some foliage to the background. So I'm really going to kind of spread this all around the top, all around the kind of the heads of the forest to really make those trees in the background, make them look like trees. And we're still going to go in with another kind of highlighting layer, another detailed layer, but this is just to get it to look like there are leaves on the trees. So you can also, instead of just dabbing down with the brush, if you want to get a different effect to make it look a little bit darker, side a little bit, kind of do this type of same kind of motion, just with your brush on the side. So this is what I've got so far. So I'll come around with that. So you've still got that greenish yellow on your brush. And as it starts to dry a little bit more, you can go ahead and start to add kind of some up close layers, if that makes sense, just to let in the front, just to start to give it a little bit of depth by adding like some bright foliage up front. And it doesn't have to be a ton, or maybe you already have some, so you definitely don't have to if you already are happy with the contrast going on. But the yellow is number 4 and the green is number 5. If you're watching from home with one of the kits from the Kiki Run. So I'm just kind of adding some brighter leaves. So, well, I've got that on my brush too. Well, you're gonna do some brighter leaves if you want. You can also kind of go back in and start to add a little bit of that brighter layer into your grassy areas down at the bottom. So you can really just work with the green colors. So I'm just going in while I have that color on there, and then just adding a little bit of the brighter color with a highlight to the top kind of portion of the grassy layers down below. How's everybody feeling so far? Anybody need more paint? Everybody good? Okay. More paper towels for anybody? Yeah? Okay. So I'm also going to add a little bit of white into that mixture. Oops, I accidentally added a bunch of red. That wasn't good. Feels like it's on fire. And then I'm just going to do that same type of dabbing that I did in the treetops and just go along that edge. And you can kind of start to see now your background separating from your foreground. You can see those trees are going back into the distance, and your grassy area in front is kind of standing out as your foreground. Awesome. From here, everybody's looks great. rinse your brush out. We're gonna start in with some water. Does anybody want new water? Yeah? Okay. So we'll let everybody get kind of caught up with that green area and then get their brushes rinsed. So we'll get you some fresh water to start on. So raise your hand for some fresh water. Okay, let's kind of go around the room. Oh, looks great. That looks awesome. Yeah. Yes, perfect. Thanks, Kelly. Okay. Yep. Okay. Yeah. Yep. Restaurant. Yeah. Perfect. You're all set. Thank you. Yep. Great. Which They're all looking so good. Okay, so for the water, first we're going to start with our blue, which like half and half. So I'm using the big one. Thank you. Forgot about the brush part. So with my big brush, I'm just going to load my brush up with that. And then what I'm going to do, I'm going to hold this up here if I can do it backwards, I'll mess it all up. So I'm going to start right at that opening that I've got, where where the hills come together. And I'm going to take my big brush and just kind of make a little mark in there. Kind of just determine where my waterfall stream is going to start. Just kind of determining where that's starting. And then kind of following what we're doing for this final. Do you see how the stream kind of weaves in and out, kind of goes back and forth? It's not really a straight down. It's almost like it's coming off the picture. So we're going to do that same type of thing on here. So I see some looks over the mask. So what I'm going to do is just use kind of a back and forth technique. So I'm just going to go kind of back and forth. Nothing crazy, because we've already got kind of the shape going of what we want. We're going to go out of it a little bit. But if you just kind of start to fill in your shape, going back and forth with your brush, you'll start to see this kind of look. And we're going to add some shadows and some highlights, which is really going to make the water look realistic. But right now we're just trying to get that shape down. So you're going to start with that, the area in the back is going to be your smallest area. Because you're kind of looking at the stream kind of going away from you. And then, you can kind of bring your brush over into the grass a little bit. You can see that. And you can kind of choose, another area to go kind of into the grass to make it look like it's spreading out. You can kind of do that type of effect the whole way, really the whole way down the times. So I'm just going to get that on there, and then I'm going to walk around and see how everybody's doing with the water so far. Thickest area of stream. See how I kind of broke the border of that original negative shape that we had just by creating that. Just kind of coloring outside of the lines with my water. So it's definitely not exactly how I want it, but I'm gonna, so I can add that in there. So I'm just gonna set this back up here and come around and see how you guys are doing. Love it. Oh, perfect. Oh, yes, it looks great. Yes, I think so. with smaller brush next. So if you want to clean up your smaller brush if you haven't already, we are going to start to do some contrast work with our darker blue. So however you mix your first shade of blue, you just want to put a little bit more of that dark blue in there. So what I'm going to do is I'm kind of going to try to find where the water meets the grass. And I'm going to just start to give it a little definition. So it doesn't have to be anything crazy. I'll show you. So just, to get a little bit of more on the outside than anything, just to get some kind of wave looking if the water's flowing. So I'm just using a back and forth motion, kind of the same way we did that original color of blue. And I'm just going back and forth, the water meets the grass. And what's really going to make it look like water is when we get the white in there. The white really makes it look realistic, but this darker blue is definitely going to help. So what I'm going to do too is add some of that darker blue up into the front of my stream. Just to give it a little bit more contrast because it's going to be the area that's close to us. And if you're watching from home, the blue is color number 6. That helps you to get a start on the mixing of the blue. So now what I'm going to do is take the white, and I'm just going to do pure white on my little brush, which is color number 1. So this, a lot of yours already do. Everybody's looks great. But I always think as soon as you add that brightness, it really starts to come alive. So I'm going to start with that right at the very top. And I'm not going to make a very thick line. If you need to wipe off your brush, you can. But I'm just going to start by using the same dabbing effect that I did on the trees. Kind of mix it in with that little back and forth motion. And just start to, yes, with a little brush, yep. So what you can do with this is just kind of play around. This is like your waves, and this is your kind of your sunlight shining on your water. So it's however you want your water to look. If you want it to be a little rougher, you might want to add, some more, fewer marks right in the center. And if you want to do a waterfall effect, you don't have to. But what I did at the top is I just took my small brush with my white on it, and then I just pulled my brush down. So just like a pulling motion down. And I did that right at the top. You can see that. And you definitely don't need to do that. That's addition on there if you want to. This one, it has a little bit of that, but not a ton. The original one. So don't feel like you need to add that if you don't want to. But if you do, after you've got that little kind of pull down of the waterfall, you can load that white up on your brush and really do like a dabbing effect like was on your trees, make it a little bit thicker. And then as you can see, it kind of looks like some waves kind of coming off the waterfall at the bottom. So if that is something that you like, it's just a little bit more, hold the feet down for the waterfall. So I'm just going to keep going with the white a little bit. Like I said, add as much white as you want. Make them look like waves, make them look like just a little glisten of sunlight. Whatever you want. So that's how mine ended up, just with some waterfall. So I'm gonna leave my highlights like they are like that. I'm gonna go in with a little bit more dark in a minute, but I'm gonna kind of let that sit for a second. So I'm gonna come around and see everybody's. Well, that white dries. And then we'll darker colors in just a minute. Very nice. Yes, if you want to. Yeah. Oh, I love it. Yes, very nice. Love it. I just love it. Yeah, I just like it. If you want very nice. Love it. I love it. Love it. Yeah. Oh, yeah, right. No, it was good. Love it. It does look far. It does. But it looks like it's far. It looks good. It looks like you're in the great. Yeah. So if you want to, we're going to do next. So if you don't, right, without. I'm very happy. Great. Give everybody another minute or so on their white of the. So next what I'm going to do is take my small brush and I'm going to clean it. And then I'm going to put some black and some brown on there. So a little bit of a mixture just so it's not like a pure black, but it's a pretty dark color. And what I'm going to do, let me show you this original. What really kind of makes the water look like it's setting down into the earth is the dark shadows, kind of where the little hill, the little grass meets the water. So that's what we're going to do next. As you can see from here, it's not on every edge. It's only where the water, where you would be kind of standing on the grass, if that makes sense. So where your water's cutting into the cliff, you'd want to meet that, the underside with a little bit of that dark brown black color. So I'll show you on here so we get a better idea of it. So what I'm going to do is just kind of find like my cliff area right here. And I'm just going to use that same effect with like the little dabbing pulling across. And I'm going to add some dark. I'm doing it upside down, so I hope I'm doing it right. Okay. So I don't know if you can see that effect very well. And do a little bit more just so you can get the idea of it, but it'd be like underneath. So like if you did a waterfall, you know, you can do that area next to it. Really try to find that bottom edge and meet the water with the grass. I don't know if that makes a ton of sense. It's hard to explain. It's kind of hard to kind of see that. Arlene's going to come around, so if you are out of... So to kind of finish off that effect with the stream, what I'm going to do when I finish putting those little dark areas in is I'm going to find my light green color again. So you might need to mix a little bit up, but it's just the green and the yellow. And I'm just going to show you quick so you see the effect of it, and then I'm going to come around and see if anybody needs help. Both of the grassy area that doesn't have the dark underside, we're going to do a little bit of a highlight to make it look like the grass is meeting the water. So you kind of see what I'm starting to do a little bit is we're just bringing that brighter grassy color up on top. So it's a little, I'm going to come around with this so you can see what I'm definitely not explaining it how Bob Ross did. Okay, so that's kind of how I've got in my stream to stop. So I'm going to go around with this in person. Okay.
Yeah, so what I did is just highlight this gap, perfect. That was great. Thank you.
So I am going to show you. So Isaiah did them. So he's to the top of this portion of it, but he, that's the effect that we're looking for. So yeah, just that dark shadow, just make it look really sitting into the earth. But it looks like everybody's got it down, so. Very nice. Hold on 1 second. Just gonna put that back and. All right. Okay, so everybody's doing a great job. So the other thing that I've got in the final is I've added some trees up front to kind of accentuate a better sense of depth, but this is completely up to you. If you're feeling pretty happy about the way yours looks right now, you don't have to, but what I'm gonna do is add in a couple foreground trees just to create the sense of depth. But like the whole rest of your painting is yours. So if you wanna keep working on the grass, or if you wanna work on your water or your sky even, you can always work on something else if you don't want to add in the big trees in the front. Yeah. So what I'm gonna do is rinse my brush. And then I'm gonna start with my brown again. And I'm gonna do this side of my painting. And I'm going to add a big foreground tree coming right up here. So I'm gonna take my small brush still, and I'm gonna start just how I did with the other ones. Pull up a big, kind of a brown line, and I'm gonna go all the way up to the top. So I'm gonna make the bottom of my trunk a little thicker. And I'm gonna make it come out a little bit to make a root. So I'm gonna add in a little black, just because my background of the green is a little too dark, so I'm not seeing my brown very well. So as you can see, that kind of darkens it up a little bit. And I'm just going to pull that color all the way through to the top. You can see that on there. This one. Or a couple branches probably. And I'm just going to add just kind of, not anything too fancy, just some branches. And you can do almost the same effect as the waterfall and just kind of pull your brush upwards, thicker base and a thinner top. And then I'm going to add the same type of highlight that I did on those original trees in the background. And I'm just going to kind of take it on one side and add a highlight going up my tree, just like we did in the beginning. Just so it gives it a little bit of contrast to make it look a little bit rounder. Okay. So while that's drying, I'm going to do the same type of thing with another tree and the other side. And then this is completely your choice. If you want to do a couple more in the foreground, you can. We're going to add some leaves that kind of cover that corner, make it a little bit brighter, a little bit more personable up there. So I'm going to add, what I did is add like a split tree over on the other side. So same kind of effect where I added a little bit of black in there. To give it that look of depth. And I'm going to just go ahead and add a couple more little branches and little tree trunks. So I'll come around with that in just a second so you can see it. I'm going to add in the same light brown highlight that I did on the other tree. So it kind of looks like that. So we're going to add some leaves onto those too, but this is just for kind of that trunk area. And then Carlene is going to come around and show that to you quick while I get my palette cleaned up. Somebody added a room. And the crystals looks beautiful. So feel free to add some stars and move your background Ooh. I love it. So now what we're going to do is add in some leaves up into the foreground, up into the top. And I'm going to use my bigger brush. And I'm going to take that kind of light green color that we mixed. But this time I'm going to add in a little bit of red, a little bit of white. And it's going to look kind of like a brown color, but hopefully a little bit greener, if that makes sense. And then I'm just going to do that same that I had before. See how it's almost like a yellow, but looks a little bit redder. I'm just going to kind of keep adding some different colors. But this one, this tree up front, because it's closer, just want it to be a little warmer. And by adding just a little touch of the red into that mix, really gives it like a whole different feel. Almost like it's almost fall, but it's not quite yet. And I'm going to do that on both sides of my painting where I have the treetops. I'm still doing that same kind of dabbling effect. And don't be afraid to do some thicker brush strokes with some more paint on there because this is going to be what's up front. How we put it on. And maybe you want like a more kind of a painterly effect with like the brush strokes or like the paint dabs, and that is okay. So I'm just adding in some colors. And while I've got those colors on my brush, I'm going to take just kind of straight up and down that same dab effect, and I'm just going to make some little markings kind of around the bases of my trees to make it look like there's maybe some grass or some weeds or something growing. So I'm just going to kind of do those maybe a little bit along the creek bank and by the bottom of the trees, separated from the ground a little bit. And you can make those as big or as small as you want. You can switch up your colors, add some white in there, some more red, just to give it like a warmer look. So that's just with the little spritz of the grass in there. So at this point, we're pretty much done adding things into our painting. So if you want to take some time and just kind of finish up the areas that you kind of want to go back and work on. And I'm going to come around and just see how everybody's doing. And then our last step is always going to be to sign our name, which is mainly why we have red, because most of this paintings. So we're going to sign our names. If we're done, if we're not, that's okay too. And this is a time too when if you want to paint the edges of your canvas, you can. Some people like to paint them black, some people like to paint them white, or you can wrap it around with your color, or you don't have to. But that is an option with the nice wraparound canvases to kind of give them a more finished look. So I'm going to leave this here and I'm going to come around, just kind of see what everybody's doing. If you have any questions, let me know. And as you can see, it looks completely different than the first one, which I can't get them to look the same. So would anybody be strictly opposed to nobody else seeing the same thing? Okay. What I like to do is a little art walk around, and we can keep, distance if you want. If you don't want to get up and look, you don't have to. Because if you do, just put your mask on. And if somebody doesn't want you to look at theirs, then please don't look at Yeah, don't forget to sign your name if you want to sign your name. Does anybody want a little tiny girl to sign their name when they're there? Right. Everybody. It looks awesome. So we've got about 15 minutes left. So the only other things that I really want to do is get a kind of a group picture of everybody. We would have to wear a mask, and if you don't want to be in it, you definitely don't have to. Or if you want to leave your painting out, you can. But everybody's looks great. So we're going to maybe paint for another 5-10 minutes. And then we'll take a picture. And then keep working on your painting at home if you want to. And it's to find a Bob Ross painting because all of them were so amazing. So if you do like this kind of style of landscape painting and you haven't done a Bob Ross YouTube before, totally try it because it's really fun. So. I love it. Oh, those are nice. But if you like to paint and you're like, yeah,
Oh, yeah. You're welcome. I love it. Oh, I love it. Very cool.
So I'm just going to sign my name. Just thought about it on the first one. All right, so there's my finished painting of the moon. So if you are watching online and you would like to paint, or if you want, and they'll come with the paint colors with the numbers on them. So you'll be able to follow along with the numbers that are in your paint kit. So thank you everybody for coming tonight. I think we are all set. So if everybody wants to stick around for a painting or for a picture, that would be awesome. We can just put our masks on, and then don't worry about cleaning up. We will get that for you. So thank you everybody for coming, and happy painting. What'd you say? Right. All right. Kevin, are you ready?